This episode is brought to you by Nespresso and Samra Origins by the Weekend Coffee Collection.
Introducing Samra Origins. My collaboration with Nespresso is a connection to my roots, to my mother, Samra. Coffee that hits the right notes. It transports you. Crafted with unique notes and bold, soaring flavors. Experience a taste that moves you. Nespresso and Samra Origins.
Discover more at Nespresso.com.
Purina believes no one should have to make the impossible choice between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Through the Purple Leash Project, Purina is helping create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
You're listening to RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast.
Hello, welcome to another episode of the RAP Podcast. I'm joined as ever by Hattie, Nick and Dan. How are we all doing?
Very good, thank you.
Excellent stuff. Dan was just off there telling us about Abertillery coming second. Bless him. I'm sure there are a couple of other people on the panel who appreciate that feeling.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Right, as we don't want to go past people's bedtime, namely mine. We're going to go straight into it this weekend. So, Nick, what have we got on the never-ending news desk?
Okay, we'll start off with the Dragons. Dragons stroke Scarlets. That Steve Cummins, who's had his injury issues since he's joined the Dragons, has actually been let on loan to the Scarlets on a short-term loan because of their own injury crisis. The 33-year-old Australian has travelled to Llanelli for his second spell at the club, and he featured in Friday's home United Rugby Championship fixture against Stormers. So I don't know who to go to first. Dan, Hattie, how do you view that?
I mean, I don't think he had the worst game of everybody that was there. So I'll take that as a positive for now.
And he's big.
He's big. I don't really know if you can judge off Friday's game, to be honest. But no. A body is a body at this point, so I'll take it.
Dan, how do you think Dragons fans feel about, he's played so little since becoming a big signing the summer before?
Yeah, and look, he's a big man. He's brought in, I think his line of work is good, his physicality is good. And I think he was someone that the Dragons probably need, but horrendous. This goes back down to the sort of recruitment that happened last season where I think the due diligence wasn't done, like horrendous concussion history with Steve. And I probably think that we thought that with Levi Douglas coming into the squad and, all our fitlock, Seb Davis coming back this past weekend, that we were probably okay for numbers there. So Steve's gone out to get himself some game time at the right level, at our level. And I thought he did okay, actually, as well. His line-up work was neat and tidy. He was good in the line-out, carried the ball when he had to. I think there's a player in there, and the Scarlets got more out of him in 50-odd minutes than we did all of last season in reality. Unfortunately, we're down a lock already now, aren't we?
Yeah.
With Levi Douglas coming off. So, yeah, let's hope that doesn't, knowing how that'll blow up in our face as well, and we'll end up having an injury crisis in the second row whilst Steve Cummins is on loan. So, I'm unsure whether there's like a recall element of the deal or not. I don't know.
Usually for these things, because I know when Cardiff have loaned players from, well, the many players we've loaned from Bath over the last season or so, when they've had issues, they've called them back pretty much straight away even if it's just to cover in training.
There you go. But I think if he can go and get some game time and plug the gaps that the Scarlets need him to plug, When he comes back, he should be match fit, raring to go. I think he's definitely a handy player. He's been able to cut it out in France, and various other places. So yeah, hopefully it'll be the start of a long and fulfilled season for Mr. Cummins, whether that's in Scarlet's colours or with the men of Gwent.
Okay, thank you. We'll stay with the Dragons. Unfortunately, some bad news regarding injuries at the centre. As anticipated, Pia is going to have a spell on the sidelines, and he's undergone surgery. Tongan International suffered a fracture after having a really, really good start to his Dragons career against the Sharks. And he's now started his rehabilitation. He's going to be out for a period of time. Dragons actually, on their information, they said they weren't sure how long it was going to be, but the BBC seemed to say it was going to be December. So I don't know where that's going to be. It depends how quickly, I guess, with a fracture, how serious it is, and how quickly he can get back. Also, with as probably anticipated, maybe that Ashton Hewitt, who was let go last year, 30-year-old, has now confirmed his retirement from rugby. He played 124 times for the Dragons and scored 36 tries. And another one of those players who probably didn't quite reach the heights that he certainly had the potential to do because he was so unlucky with injury. Would that be fair, Dan?
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there with Ashton. Injuries plagued the prime of his career, really, when he was in and around, sniffing at opportunities with the Wales squad. Nevertheless, he had a fantastic career for the Dragons and the men at Gwent, a proud one club man. He is a man of Gwent himself as well. Proud Newport boy. So hopefully he's sort of had a fulfilled career with the Dragons. Part of me felt that he did have a little bit to offer elsewhere. Listening to his appearance on Scrum 5 last week, I think there was some suggestion that he'd been speaking to Worcester. Could have easily gone and played in a championship, I think, for a season or two there. But ultimately, he's gone on to start his consultancy, working in the sort of diversity field, and he's been a massive advocate for the anti-racism stuff over the last few years. So good on him, and I'm sure we all do wish him the very best for the future. In terms of our brand new shiny outside centre, Tonkin International, Mr. Paya. Unfortunately, it looks like December is the sort of amount of time that we're looking at him on the sidelines. According to the BBC, maybe they know a bit more than we do through sources. I don't know, but I'm gutted about that. I think he was a real find for us. I thought he was fantastic against the Sharks in poor conditions. I was looking forward to see what he could do against Cardiff this week. But unfortunately, we've lost him for the next, sort of 8 or 10 weeks. So fingers crossed he comes back, and I genuinely hope this is not the plight of the Dragons cursing everybody, because at the moment we're dropping like flies.
Okay, on to Cardiff, and Cardiff, who've had their own issues with injuries already, have recruited on loan centre Will Rigg, who's played quite a lot for Exeter. And I think Exeter sees an opportunity for him, who's again coming back from injury, to have some game time. And they've also brought in Cardiff-born Sale Sharks centre Oshan Roberts, who's 20, played for the under-20s last year and was quite impressive. So, I think that seems to be some decent business, Ali.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we were all quite worried when Harry Maillard went down in the Munster game and thought of, crap, the only actual 13 we've got is Oshan Darwin-Lewis, who I think has only just turned 18 himself. I think he's only just coming into the under-20s. And then, we had some people questioning why we were do's and he's not dipping into the rags, forgetting that our two academy rags 13s were Oshan Darwin-Lewis and Elijah Evans, who is also injured from pre-season. Obviously, Grady being out still, and Josh Adams having a knock this weekend. Just good to have some extra depth in that area, so we're not relying. Although, I mean, we'll go on to the thing, but Oshan Darwin-Lewis is a much bigger lad than I remember him being when I last saw him play.
Okay.
Yeah, so good things. Will Riggs looked solid in the Prem. I wouldn't say he was particularly anything special. But if he's there to warm the bench and shore up numbers, then great.
Some sad news. Former Wales women's head coach Warren Abrams unfortunately has died. He was only aged 43. I'll be honest with you, and maybe Hattie can help here. I don't know much more about him. I don't sort of really remember him being involved with Wales women. I know he had other coaching roles as well. Anything like this?
Yeah, it was a very, very short period that he was with the women's team, but he's been really heavily involved in women's rugby, especially in England. I know he was at Richmond for a while. I think he was at Harlequins for a while. And I have to be honest, I obviously knew who he was, obviously knew who he was from his time with Wales and everything. And I was just like, oh yeah, he's former head coach. I hadn't really thought that much of it. Um, but I've been really kind of astounded over the last like day or so seeing the amount of former players, not just from Wales, but people, the likes of Alif Kelter, Olympian, probably one of the best centres in the world, kind of coming out to talk about how she feels about him and how good he was as a coach. And a lot of people kind of saying like, you know, he was the person that made me carry on with rugby. I wanted to give up and he believed in me, and he seemed to have been a very, very inspirational coach. So yeah, it is really, really sad. And it's obviously really sad that we're only hearing about his legacy now, rather than celebrating him when he was still alive.
And any other news on the women's side of things, Hattie?
Yes, so Wales women's players Donna Rose and Georgia Evans, who play for Saracens in the PWR, won the PWR Cup this weekend. Harley's favourite player, Georgia Evans. But that's the only news from my side.
Okay, we'll go carry on sort of talking about Scarlets, and it's been announced sort of late today that they've strengthened their squad with the signing of highly rated young number 8 or flanker Fletcher Anderson. The 22-year-old talented New Zealand featured in 3 matches for the Crusaders. I think when they won the Pacific Super Rugby Pacific title. He started 1 game and he's since been playing for Tasman Makos. And he was named man of the Year, Player of the Year, Defender of the Year for their 2025 campaign. And I guess given the loss of Fafita, the injuries in the forwards, especially in the back 5, much needed, Hattie.
Yeah, I think obviously don't really know too much about him. There isn't that much online. If you go from news article to news article, it's literally the same stuff. But I'm hoping that he's a big ball carrier because that's exactly what we need. And Defender of the Year, I will take that. So I have high hopes.
Excellent. And perhaps, I don't know how you feel about this, but also with the Scarlets, perhaps outside of the game on Friday night, the biggest news was Blair Murray's hair. What would you, obviously you're probably more stylish than the other 3 of us. I can't comment. I'm sorry if I've upset Harley and Dan on that one, but, is it something you can go with, that sort of hairstyle?
No, so when I saw it, I did think he had cursed the game, and it turns out he did. Somehow it wasn't, his hair was not actually the worst thing of the night for the Scarlets, which is surprising. But I hope that he never does it again because I think it cursed the game. It was
You've got to hope
horrendous.
You've just got to hope
it has to have been. It has to have been like caught or something, and because that is just horrendous. If he's got a girlfriend, I can't imagine how on earth his girlfriend has let him walk out the house like that.
And that's the end of the news, Harley.
Yeah, so there's one little bit. So that's the end of the rugby sort of on off-field news. Now we have some podcast news. So I have checked. He's happy with me doing this, and he's been forced to do the same on his own podcast for Good Night. But friend of the boy, Catboy, Mr. Statsman, Hugh Griffin has gotten engaged to his long-term girlfriend. So we wish Hugh and Bethan absolutely all the best in the future. And I'm looking forward to his stag do, which will be touring all the Pro Day sides.
Yeah. I don't know if Grise knows yet that Hugh's gotten engaged without her.
And he celebrated.
I'm sure she will live.
Yeah.
He celebrated up in Eryri. He's going up with that up Snowdon on this weekend. So what better place than to celebrate his engagement than in North Wales?
Congratulations.
Yes, and because Hugh and Bethan have met Fleur, Fleur says, "Yay, well done, Hugh." So that's all of our news. Yeah, once again, good luck to Hugh. And if you enjoyed that positive news, plus all the other things that we've got on this channel, please feel free to like, subscribe, leave us comments on YouTube. If you don't just like Welsh rugby and you want to hear a bit more about the game around the world, I do recommend going to the Global Game Line. The women's pod is wrapped up for now. I imagine it'll have a few weeks off, and then there will be more yap for the city. If not, we've got the Mall Street Journal, which URC pod is going stronger than ever. Then you have the bit of the animal if you're more of the South African persuasion, and the provincial pod for those of you on the Emerald Isle. Right, moving on, we are going to go on to our weekend reviews now, and there's a big common theme with 3 of the 4 games, and that is the number 0. Unfortunately, we're going to start with it on the wrong side, and that is with Hattie on Friday night up against the Stormers.
Do you know what? There were multiple points in that game where I just thought, I don't want to watch this. And I was very tempted to just turn it off. But then I was like, I can't because I've got to do this podcast. So thanks to this podcast, I actually had to finish watching the game. It was horrendous. It was the worst thing I've watched from the Scarlets in a while. It was us at our absolute worst. It was absolutely horrendous. And the worst part is that you're like, oh, do you know what? I'll go have a look at the stats. And you're like, we had more carries. Like, there was more this, there was more that. You know, it's relatively even on territory. We just couldn't do anything with it. We were so poor. And the Stormers were just like, yeah, we'll just defend for a bit. Because you're not going to do anything. And it was just awful. It was just absolutely awful. And obviously, the main kind of talking point is the amount of penalties. And I've seen it reported slightly differently in different places. I'm going to go with 20, just because that's what's on Rugby Pass. Not good. Not good at all. It just felt like it was penalty after penalty after penalty. And we also had 2 yellow cards as well. At one point, I did think Tame Plumtree was a bit lucky not to get a second yellow. Just discipline was poor. Tackling was, it was just poor. It was just incredibly, incredibly poor. The only person who wasn't horrendous was Blair Murray. And quite frankly, his hair was horrendous enough to kind of bring him down to the same performance level of everybody else. It was just bad. Just bad. I don't know what anybody else has to say because honestly, it was the worst thing I'd watched in a very long time.
I'll kick off because obviously we've recently played the Stormers, and they are a good team. I think
They are.
they're going to be a very good team this year. They're going to be there to thereabouts. But from a Scarlet perspective, what would have concerned me in particular was, despite being the home team, how they were absolutely bullied. They were dominated physically at the breakdown. They were dominated physically in the scrum. If Lou Reed had been playing, he'd be making those reverse beeping noises because the scrum was on roller skates. And I know they've got injury issues. And I know they had ex-Osprey player Tristan Davis, who's a blindside flanker, played in the second row. But the other 4 were regulars last year's first choices. So that is going to be something they must address. But it is difficult to judge your scrum sometimes when you're playing the South Africans because they're so good at it. But it's something that they're going to have to address, that physicality. And maybe this guy who as they brought in would be doing that. But it was. And then what happened then is that any ball they did have, they were a bit, trying miracle passes, and the amount
Just
of
couldn't do anything with it.
balls went to ground, and so in the end, they were quite lucky to only lose 34-0. And I'm not being anti-Scarlet there. I'm just being honest.
Yeah, I think you're completely right. I don't necessarily know if it was our front row that were the problem, because as you said, that's pretty much our first choice front row. It was a pretty decent front row. Problem was we had no weight in the second row at all. And that's why it was just going backwards. And then when you look at our back row, you've got the likes of Tame Plumtree, he's a very flashy player. I really like Tame Plumtree. He's a good defender. He's not necessarily a big ball carrier, in my opinion. He's not necessarily got that heft. And so we just weren't able to really make any big carries. There was nothing really there. Everything just felt pointless. And And yeah, I think with the Stormers, I'm surprised that it only was 34-0. I don't necessarily know. They obviously played well. They defended very well. I'd probably say that their defense was better than their attack, and we were, as I said, about 4 million times extremely poor. And I think a lot of it comes from our back five, the injuries that we had. Um, we don't have any big ball carriers. I think when it came to ruck time, I do think with our rucking, there was potentially, probably, maybe a bit of some interesting decisions made by the referee around the rucks, which probably contributed to that. And, once you've been pinged a couple of times for something, it's like, well, are we going to do it again? Because we've been pinged for it 3 times, so I'm not going to do it again. And therefore, the sort of our rucking became even more passive. And then you have, as I said, the likes of Tane maybe not being as feisty as he normally is at some points because he didn't want to get a second yellow. It was a very, very feisty game considering how poor the Scarlets were playing, and the Stormers were just as feisty back. And it contributed to a bit of an odd game, I think.
I sort of agree with Nick, really. I thought they were outclassed, especially in the physicality department. And if you're going to concede 15 penalties, you're going to end up in your own 22. As soon as you end up in your own 22, the South African bulldozer is going to get you. You're over the line at some point. But I, I do get a little bit fed up with the the physicality this and the physicality that. They're so big in South Africa that for me, physicality is a mentality. You have to go and want it. You got to go and want to whack people. You got to go and want to stand in front of people. Now, I can name you 3 players off the top of my head, sort of Ardie Surveyor, Jack Morgan, and Dion Fourie, for example. Not massive men, all sort of around the 100 kilo mark, but they're highly, highly physical in the way that they play the game. Difficult to bring down. You watch Jack Morgan tackle, you watch Ardie Surveyor carry the ball. Fourier's capable of playing in the back row and at hooker. And the level of his physicality. That's a mental state to want to go and do those sorts of things. And unfortunately, I don't think there's enough people in that pack of the Scarlets at the moment to want to go and do it. You've lost Craig, you've lost Fafita, um, and as such, you just get out muscled because the other people don't want to do it. It's a mental state a large part of the time. Effectively, it was an all international backline for the Scarlets, and I thought they were poor, average. I did think Blair Murray was good. I got to be honest. I thought he played particularly well, mopping up rubbish left, right, and centre. But to perform like that at home, I know it sounds rich coming from the Gwent side of the pod here, but as we've discussed now, but coming at home, I think that's a poor state of affairs from the Scarlets, unfortunately. Um, they've let themselves down a little bit there. I wouldn't expect them to win, but I was at least expecting them to go out on this shield.
Yeah. You don't expect to get nilled at home
No.
in the way that it did, Getting, if it's 3-0, you're like, oh, okay, that was probably a bit of a physical battle and, you had to take points where you can. But 34-0 is just vile.
Yeah,
It was just
I think
pathetic.
one thing you really missed, not just in terms of his physicality and his willingness to just truck up shit ball when it needed. You really missed Josh McLeod's leadership in that pack. I feel like he'd have managed the ref a lot better than Johnny Williams did for a start. And also, he's just, talking about like carrying above your weight. Josh McLeod will do that if that's what required of him. He's never going to be, he's never going to make, stats busting carry lips, but he will, he'll take shit ball and make it playable. And, those sorts of players are valuable for the Scarlets.
Yeah, I agree with you on the leadership thing. I think Johnny Williams, I said to friend of the pod, Hugh, that, with sort of the Welsh coaching staff in the crowd, you'd expect somebody like Johnny Williams, who tends to sit on a bit of the periphery of the Wales squad, to put his hand up a bit. And I think he played himself out of a Wales spot, to be honest. I think he was quite poor. He came off after, I think, 50 minutes. Not through injury, just And when you've been given the captaincy for the game and you're coming off after 50 minutes as a centre, I don't think that's a good shout. Costello came on and he took over the captaincy, but it didn't look like anybody knew who the captain was when Johnny went off. I don't think there was any real leadership in the forward pack. The backs were a bit of a mess as well. Yeah, it was just a bit of a mess. And then obviously you had Joe Hawkins at 10, who I don't think he necessarily did badly. I mean, obviously we got nilled, but it's not somewhere that he's been playing a lot. He obviously didn't play a lot of rugby last year. He didn't play a lot of rugby at all for the Chiefs whilst he was over there. So to stick him in at 10, it was an interesting choice when there was no real leadership options there. And I think he was quite quiet in that aspect.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I think that's enough of that Scarlets bashing. So I think we're going to move over to the happy side of the locker with Ospreys nilling Zebra after everyone was assuming, is Zebra have become good this year, and Ospreys have firmly put that one to bed. So well done. You've picked on the little kid, Nick. I hope you're proud of yourself. Talk to the game because this is a game I didn't actually get a chance to see on Saturday. So
obviously, Zebra arrived unbeaten, and well done to them for that. We think we talked about that last week, but they did choose this game as a game to rotate. They obviously everybody seems to target home games in this league more, unless you're really, one of the superstars like Leinster. So for me, with the positives, where things I've had a few doubts about from South Africa were much better. The scrum was answered some of the criticisms they'd had out in South Africa. Much improved performance in that area, but obviously, one swallow doesn't make a summer, etc. So we need to see more of that. But what encouraged me too was that even when we brought our replacements on, and they brought their replacements on, so we were more actual first choice props, we were still on top at scrum time. The line out, which we'd had a few difficulties in the first game, now is at 2 games where it's almost been perfect. And we also stole a number of Zebras throw-ins as well. So that was very good. Our defence was good. They never really threatened. And even when they did, the scramble defence was very good. Another positive, I know it's not massive, but it was a decent crowd of 4,500 there. And I'm sure it had been at least 1,000 less if that game had been played at Swansea.com. And for the club, the income from the drinks and the payments for the licenses for the outside caterers exactly will go to the Ospreys. So in all those respects, it was good. There was a good atmosphere there. It was a proper rugby match. We noticed it very much improved to last season at the Swansea.com. So that all goes well for the bigger games to come. The Ospreys started well again. They built some good pressure leading up to Kokasinga's try, which he took well. And there was some really excellent play leading up to Morgan Morse scoring a second try for the home team. And we went in at 14 at half time. And I must admit, I thought, okay, we'll at least score 2 tries in the second half. We lost a lot of momentum in the third quarter. There were a lot of knock-ons when we went under huge pressure, and that knocked our momentum. And we certainly left some tries out there. Even in the final quarter, we scored a try, of course, but there was one where we made a breakthrough. Tom Frons was put through a gap. He made the break, but he failed to pass inside to Morgan Williams running that classic 9 line, who would have walked in under the post. And then even in injury time, when strangely Ratty, who at that time was playing number 8, with the scrum advancing from the scrum 5, 5 minutes to help. So he was unselfish, but perhaps if he'd been a bit more experienced of playing at 8, he'd have hung on to the ball and taken their outside half out over the line, and we'd have got the bonus point. So in the end, it was 4 points. But a win is a win, and it follows up the South Africa trip. I thought the back row very good again. Ratty was very industrious, as he is, and ended up playing in 3 different positions. And talking just to back up what Dan is saying about physicality and size, don't always, Kieran Williams was great. Again, he's knocking on the door, I think, maybe for a chance under the new team and the Welsh setup. And obviously Jack Walsh was excellent. He's got man of the match. But probably the happiest person would be Justin Tipuric, because we didn't concede any tries. And that was sort of typified for me. Zebra made a break from their own 22 when we knocked it on from about 5 yards out. But our scramble defence was great. And Lewis Lloyd, he's a lightweight hooker, but he made fantastic ground to make a try-saving tackle. And then the man making his 50th appearance in the yellow cap was there to turn the ball over. And he's another one who, plays way beyond his size, Harry D. So Diane Harry D's. So yeah, it's a decent win, and we now go up against a very good team next week, and I'm sure we'll talk about that when the Warriors come down to the state-of-the-art stadium that is Brewery Field, Caerbrachdy. Really, this is like Everton's new football ground.
Did you have a go on the bouncy castle, Nick?
Unfortunately, my partner wouldn't let me. I was sulking a bit.
Yeah, that's a shame. It looked fun.
You brushed on the Brewery Field a bit there, Nick. Did you enjoy it? Was it good? Was it because it's
Very
proper
much so.
proper old rugby ground? Was it packed? Was 4,500 full
Well,
or
the
capacity?
stand was full, obviously, and there was some noise generated. It felt like a proper rugby game.
Yeah.
And as I say, even with the same crowd at the Swansea.com, you're lost. And I don't think there would have been so many there because when we played them, I think the season before the last time we played them at home, I think there were just over 3,000.
Yeah.
So a 1,500 extras bodies there was decent. And hopefully they'll turn up in a similar way for next Saturday evening.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot to be said for playing at a proper rugby ground. Whilst the Swansea.com's new and brilliant, it is primarily designed for football, especially, rugby generally attracts, smaller crowds. You only got to look over the bridge in the English Prem where likes of the Rec and King's Home of Franklin Gardens and stuff like that. They're rugby grounds. They're designed for rugby. The crowd's on top of the field and so on and so forth. So long may that continue down at the brewery then, because I think that could be a little secret weapon this year as well, because I don't think Zebra would have liked turning up at the brewery either. So, fantastic! I'm glad it was a good day out.
I did like their kit. Their kit was very nice.
I liked the zebra print on the side. I'm a big fan of of an animal print because it's a neutral, obviously. So I did like that on the side.
Their best is still their fluorescent pink one with the tiger stripes across the chest. I still like. If I come across one of those on Vinted, I'm definitely getting it. Also, I'd like to point out that the absolute shithousery of Mark Jones to stick 4 locks in his match day 23 just to take the piss out of the rest of us who can barely get 2 in a match day 23 nowadays.
Just rude. Just rude.
Yeah, but it's back to that issue around physicality, and that's what the Ospreys. I know when we started our pre-season, discussions, is that I felt one thing the Ospreys wouldn't lack, with a reasonable run of injuries, is physicality, and that's sort of proven to be true in the first 3 games.
I agree. And I don't want to go off piece here, but it's an interesting chain of thought for me at the moment, the physicality thing, because there's lots being said about the physicality in Welsh rugby and that we're not up to it and this, that, and the other. And I genuinely think a lot of it is that you are a product of your own environment. I coach an under-11s team, primarily of nice kids that are fortunate to live with parents that are both working, dual income households, if you like. I don't want to use the term middle class or anything like that, but you know what I'm getting at. And they're nice kids, but the reality is, when it gets a little bit hard, even at under 11s, they got a load of kids from, come from a town that's a little bit, harder nosed and.
Sorry, what?
Yeah, you know what I'm getting at. There's, even at that age, you got kids that are like 11. It's just in them. The dog is in there. You can't coach the dog into someone. And it's interesting. Maybe it's a sign of the sort of places that people are being brought up from, because we all know that the South Africans, for example, generally are coming from probably harder backgrounds than a lot of our boys. But then I suppose the fact that the English school system, English private school system, breeds most of their rugby players, sort of blows my theory out of the water there, doesn't it? Because
Yeah, I was going to say, just look at Leinster.
yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe it's some food for thought there, but I
I
think
don't
the
know because
physical,
they don't. Leinster don't like it if someone gets on top of them physically.
yeah,
They don't like going to the gutters. To be fair,
maybe there is
I'd also
something in
like
it.
to say before anyone writes in about me pointing out Kyra, this is just childhood trauma of getting my ass kicked in tag rugby by schools from Kyra. Like this is junior school and we're playing tag and they forgot that it's not full contact and
But you
I
go
am I am still dealing with that trauma.
point made.
Right, so we'll move on to the third game of the weekend, the second one of Saturday night. So Dragons went up to Scotstoun. I don't think anyone was expecting it, any sort of result from Dragons, but Dan still disappointed with how it ended up.
Yeah, I am a little bit disappointed if I'm honest. But when we spoke last week, I was kind of hoping that we'd be able to go away and pick up a couple of bonus points. And then I saw the team sheet. And as soon as I saw the fact that we'd made wholesale changes, it was clear to me that, this game had obviously been, I don't want to say disregarded, but effectively we've sent the bin juice, haven't we? To go and play up at Scotstoun. Just to give listeners a little bit of an example there. Seb Davis playing his first competitive game of pro rugby this season, just working his way back into it. Shea Hope his first start. Jack Lloyd the week before had been playing in the SRC for Newport. David Richard been playing in the SRC for Newport. Harry Ackerman first start. Hugh Anderson first start. Harry Beddle coming off the bench first start at senior rugby. Um, Dylan Kelleher Griffiths, another one coming. Young guys. We've sent up a very young team, with the hope, no doubt, of picking up a couple of wins or at least improving our performances in the two home derbies. You compare that to what Glasgow put out: three British Lions in Sutherland, Cummins, and Tui Pilotu. You throw in Alex Craig, Gregor Brown, George Horn at scrum half, Kyle Stein on the wing. It's very good. Hastings at fly half, if I ever mentioned him already. It's a very good Glasgow team in reality that we played against. And as soon as I saw that, I thought we're in for a tough afternoon. I wouldn't say the scoreline flattered Glasgow. They were well worth their win, but I didn't think the Dragons were, put this way, I didn't think the Dragons were as poor as the Scarlets were. We went up there with what was effectively a second 15 to play, and I thought the boys showed some endeavour. Unfortunately, we lost Levi Douglas early to injury. Looks like the curse of the 4G again, where he's got his stud stuck in the turf there, and he's rolled an ankle or done a knee. So we've not had any injury updates yet, but I hope that's not long term because I felt that he does offer a real physical presence for us. He does go around moving people, both sides of the ball. So I was pleased with his first 30 minutes. Unfortunately, he's picked up an injury. I actually thought Ackerman was good. Both centres for us on the night. Owen and Ackerman topped the carry charts, which is probably tells you the full story there. Our two centres were our best carriers. But I thought Ackerman's definitely got a future in the game. I think he's definitely a 12 as well. I think it's important to remember he's 20, 21 years of age. That guy's a top player. I thought Seb Davis did okay for his first 80 minutes as well. It's always tough. Ultimately, you're going to be playing yourself back into some sort of fitness because he's not played any other rugby. And on the whole, I thought Jack Lloyd did okay at fly half as well, especially when he's primarily been turning out for Newport at 12. When his pro team backs coach is playing inside him at fly half. So there were positives to come out of the game. Unfortunately, the stats kind of tell you all you need to know, really, in that we lost 20 turnovers in that fixture on the weekend. You're never going to win a game of rugby if you're turning the ball over 20 times and just giving the opposition the ball back. Glasgow had 61% possession, so the tail of the tape really heavy in their favour. And in attack, ball carries were fairly evenish. We carried the ball 116 times for 267 metres. But Glasgow carried the ball 157 times for twice as many meters, give or take 467 times. So for me, that tells that the tail of the tape there is we struggled for gain line, whereas Glasgow at times added at will. I did think we defended pretty well though on the whole. Um, we made 223 tackles with only 20. That's a hell of a shift in there from the boys. 223 tackles with only 22 missed. Tackle completion rate at 91%. So whilst it was disappointing not to come away with anything, when I saw the two lineups, I was kind of expecting us to come away with a bit of a bollocking, if I'm honest. But to be nilled was the disappointing factor. We did lack that physical bite to get over the gain line. We did lack that little bit of nuance in the back line. We lacked that threat at 13 in terms of Paya, whereby he's able to carry the ball and bust a tackle and get over the gain line. I thought Anisi showed up okay on the wing again. I think he's improving week on week out. And for me, Hugh Anderson needs to be in the game as much as possible. There's another one with a bright future who, with limited ball, again showed signs of his little bit of stardust there. And I think, unfortunately, if it was me picking the team next week, I think I'd be moving Rio out and bringing Hugh Anderson onto the wing. Because I think we're probably going to go with Angus at fullback based on the fact that he was rested. So, on the whole, disappointing result, maybe expected, but we've blooded no end of youngsters on Saturday, giving them a taste of senior rugby, which in the long term can only be a good thing. I don't know what you guys thought.
I think you were up against a pretty tough battle. You're going up against a Glasgow team that had obviously lost quite sort of surprisingly, I guess, the week before. So they felt they had something to prove at home. And then also it was things like it was Johnny Matthews' 100th cap for Glasgow. When you've got somebody that's so important to their team like he is, that's a big milestone, and the team's obviously going to want to get a win. And just different bits like that, where it's a bit of like a celebration game. They're going to want to throw everything at it, even though they probably didn't going up against the Dragons. But yeah, it did just kind of unfold like a car crash, unfortunately. But it's good to see the youngsters get time out.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to remain positive on that because, it was only 14-0 at half time. And I thought actually they'd done all right. We were never looking to trouble the scorers too much, but we did okay in that first period. Losing Levi Douglas again was a major factor for me because he did give us that impetus both sides of the ball, whereby he was willing to whack a few people, and he will get you a little bit of gain line. But we sort of, it was a little bit same old Dragons. He didn't quite stay in the fight for long enough. If we'd have gone down sort of 28-0, two tries either side of the break, I'd have been like, oh, okay. I'd have been more positive again. But if we go and turn over Cardiff next week, and with everyone that's been rested, they're fresh after playing two games, then, it's a genius stroke by Philo, and nobody will remember the fact that we've been absolutely walloped away at Glasgow if we can pick up a result or two in the next two fixtures, which are vitally important for us, and clearly what the management have been targeting, which is probably the right thing to do because even if we went fully loaded to Glasgow, we were unlikely to win.
I think Glasgow are a really good team, and what they tend to do is leave the back row forward well often on the edge.
Yeah.
Just gives them the go forward ball. What was slightly disappointing for me for the Dragons was when they did have the ball, they weren't able to get outside the 215 meters line and get it wide. And that's where Glasgow really put pressure on teams. They double up in a defence and they force turnovers. You've got to try and I think be a bit more three-dimensional if that's a saying in rugby. And I think when De Beer came on, they looked a little bit better. Just those little dabs through a chip, whatever, made the defence turn. But they want you to come at them in the middle of the field, and you've got to try and look at how you might do something different. And I'm looking at it because we're playing them next week as well. I think that's the way to put a little bit more stress on their defence.
Yeah, and I think to be, obviously is a much more mature professional than Jack Lloyd. I think he controlled things much better when he came on, and he challenged the defence a little bit more, kept it a little bit more honest. Um, I think you're right in terms of our attack structure, though. You look at the sort of shapes that Cardiff play as an example in the URC, and their shape is much more three-dimensional with players out the back, backs outside the back of other backs, double stacking runners. Whereas we just our pattern seemed to just be trying to pull it back from a forward to give the backs a little bit more space to run into, and it's a little bit disjointed. But and when you've not got a physical carrying threat in midfield as well, I know Ackerman tried his hardest, but he's not quite at the level as someone as Tui Pilotu is, for example, who offers that physicality carrying the ball and the deft touch of hands and so on and so forth. He's multi-threat. Ackerman's obviously early in his journey. He's not quite there yet. You need to be able to have more than just a ball handling threat in midfield. Ultimately, when you looked at it, Jack Lloyd, Ackerman, and then out to an Iron Owen, it was effectively you got maybe three just ball players in there. You got no threat of anyone, not much of a running threat in there, not much of a ball carrying threat. So it was easy to mop up, really, wasn't it? And we didn't have much gain line. So I think you're right there, Nick. But I'm hoping that changes in the coming weeks. Unfortunately, I know he's only played one for us, but I think the Tongan lad in midfield pie is going to be a massive miss because that's a dodgy position for us at 13, and we're having to look at maybe Westwood coming in or something along those lines, which doesn't fill me with confidence, if I'm honest.
I think the big issue with having Westwood at 13 is you don't really have a experienced defensive winger.
No.
Like one of the things Cardiff get away with sometimes with our 13 is you've got someone like Josh Adams, who is still one of the most, absolutely fantastic in defending the wing positionally. And but the problem is Westwood's never going to learn how to defend 13 until without playing it. Because there's only so many situations you can run in training. You've kind of got to learn by doing it. And then you end up in the trap Cardiff had where we relied on Lilo for so long.
Yeah, I'd kind of go along with that. It's just a personnel thing, isn't it? All the teams are the same, really. As soon as you start picking up bumps and bruises, it's we're all thin on the ground. But I'd expect the likes of Wyn Jones and Rob Hunt to come straight back in. Ben Carter's likely to come back in. We haven't seen Thomas Young yet. I'd expect. I don't think we're going to see him this week against Cardiff, but I'd expect him to come back in and add something. Aaron Wainwright's been rested, rightly so. We're waiting on an update on Elliot D, so hopefully that that is quality coming back in. There's no doubt about it, especially up front, because maybe not so much against Cardiff, but when we do take on the Ospreys in a couple of weeks' time, we have got to make sure that we have at least parity up front. Otherwise, we are, to coin a phrase, pissing into the wind.
Absolutely. So moving on to the final game of the weekend, which is going to be a phrase I'm going to be saying to preface the Cardiff game quite a lot this season. So we hosted Connacht. The important thing is we've broken the duck. I think it was something like 6 games in a row. This would have been 6 games in a row we'd lost, including 3 last year. I'll be honest, I wouldn't recommend anyone go and watch it back. It was not a great game. Tom Bowen's intercept try was absolutely fantastic, just purely for the vision to see that I think it was Janssen, the flanker had fumbled it, picked it, got away from him, and then just completely outstripped everyone. That was just absolutely wonderful bit of pace. Other than that, we lacked a lot in our execution. I think other teams will punish us for that. So I think that's something we've just got to sharpen up. Line out was a bit of a lottery for both sides. We came up slightly better. It was nice to see us stealing line out ball. Normally it's just stolen from us. It was quite sad to see Teddy Williams go off early in the second half. I think he's been getting, he's been on such a steep improvement curve that I genuinely thought, even with all the talent coming in available for the autumn, he might actually have a chance of making match days 23, if not starting. Adds a lot of that physical physicality we've been asking for. Hope it's not too serious, but he did end up having to go to hospital. Let's hope that was a precaution. It's going to leave us very light in the second row now with, you're probably looking at McNally not to start, maybe Thornton on the bench or Ben Donald doing cover again. Yeah, I mean, Sheedy probably holding his hand up to say, if you can find someone who can kick goals for me, I could be the guy at 10 for the short term, because he has got that backline purring and his kicking out of hand is absolutely sublime at the moment. Like he is on such good form. I don't think I've seen him like this since when he got his first Wales caps.
I mean, yeah, if you can get Halfpenny fit, you're onto one there, aren't you?
Can I just say it was sorry, I don't know. Does anybody want to add something about the game? I was going to say something just slightly related to the game.
Yeah, no, I was just going to pick up on the point that I thought that Alan Lawrence was absolutely
he was
fantastic again.
I think we're running out of superlatives from particularly on the Cardiff pod, because he is just.
I got the stats in front of me now. Top carrier and top tackler, 22 carries, 25 tackles completed. That man, if he hasn't had one, needs a pay rise, because that level of graft is absolutely fantastic. I thought again Cardiff's shape in attack was good again. You could clearly see the jockey influence there. I just hope that remains for them. For the rest of the season, because ultimately teams are going to work them out at some point. The more video they watch and so on and so forth. So, let's hope that they bring someone in that can take it to the next level. But Alan Lawrence, a bolter for the Wales squad.
No, he's a good player, Alan Lawrence.
Potentially, but I feel like we're quite stacked there. So I think it would be hard, and I do think he is an absolutely fantastic club player. I mean, it does say a lot to say that I don't think Cardiff have missed Faletau so far this season, because Alan Lawrence is doing everything you possibly want.
And this is sort of.
And there are some key injuries, and we are missing. I think it'll depend on what Tandy's thinking of for how he has his back row. Is he going to want what we've traditionally had, that more dynamic Aaron Wainwright, Faletau, Plumtree as an 8, or does he want someone who's just going to be grabbing the ball and giving you that first phase carry?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, he would be an outside bet, but I just think based purely on the dogged level of performance that he's put in, then maybe he deserves a call up, even if it's just the training squad, because he has been outstanding for you guys. I thought Beetham had a good outing as well. He's definitely one for the future if we can keep him. For Wales now, I'm on about big lad, can play, across the back line, full back, centre, wing. He's handy to have in there. And I thought who's the lad that played the 13?
Harry Millard.
Harry Millard. I thought he was solid again as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think with everyone worrying about him being 13, I think he's actually going quite well, and he does suit quite well how Cardiff set up. So we almost use, in attack, we almost use our 13 as the blindside winger.
Yeah.
And we have then the blindside winger attacking, and then you have a back three trio.
Yeah.
So, this is why we like people like Mason Grady, who are quick and comfortable on the wing. Decent, I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
I thought he did
we
right
could turn some of those line breaks they made into tries. Like, I think we probably should have beaten Connacht a bit more comfortably than we did.
Yeah, you were somewhat unlucky with the last try.
Yeah.
I got to be honest, mind. I can't remember the last time I saw a Connacht team play so poorly.
It was not.
I thought they were poor.
I mean, even their fans online were saying they were basically reacting the same way Scarlet's fans did on Friday.
Yeah, they were poor.
Yeah.
But nevertheless,
Dan Lancaster's new Leinster is taking a step back this week.
Yeah. But look, ultimately, from Cardiff's perspective, and I'm sure we'll all agree with this, it's almost been the perfect start, really, in that you would never expect it to go and win out in Munster, but picked up a valuable bonus point. And, you've knocked off the 2 home games. So, surely the Cardiff contingent must be pleased with their start to the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, two wins out of 3, 11 points on the log. It's only one more than the equivalent games last season, but it's still one more. And, one more point would have seen us in the playoffs.
Yeah,
so
and
that's really good.
There's a difference in that, and I will double down on what everyone's saying in terms of Teddy Williams as well. there's no doubt about it. He would have been in and around the Wales squad this season and didn't look good at it. Again, another victim of the 4G surface.
It's a
I think
horrible
it's just one of
surface, Arms Park.
yeah. It
Too
does look like
many
it's
leg injuries.
yeah. It looked like it's as he came down
In the
and the
lineup,
drive
yeah.
comes in, he's stood doing it. Sort of almost goes
But
before
the problem you've got to see with the surface is when you're wearing, as the forwards will do, wear the sort of the big 2-inch studs. There's no give in the 4G. Whereas if you're on if you're on grass and turf, obviously the turf will give way underneath you. Whereas on the 4G, there's no way nothing can move once you're planted in there, apart from your joints and your bones. We saw Harry Ackerman pick up that nasty injury down there playing for Wales 20s a season or two ago.
Gwen
There's no
Crabb did our ACL on there.
easy. There you go. There's no doubt about it. You're picking up more lower limb injuries when you're playing exclusively on a 4G surface, I would say, than you would do if you're playing on turf. And look, I get the fact that the pitches were and have been crap previously, but surely there's got to be a happy medium. Maybe what they use at Rodney Parade would be that happy medium where it's a bit of a hybrid, obviously to benefit the football, but I don't know. I don't like it. I think I don't think they're the future. I understand why they put in, and it's great for kids rugby and all the rest of it, but I think you're risking too many injuries, serious injuries as well, to top end professional athletes playing on that surface.
Well, does anyone have anything else to talk about other than the game?
Well, I just wanted to say I thought, and you could argue, yeah, he should be there, but the previous head coach wasn't. It was Steve Sandy in the crowd. He'd been sitting not far from me in Bridgend before driving to Cap to watch, and it's refreshing to see that type of commitment. Was he I think he was at Parker Scarlets the night before as
Yeah,
well.
it was on Friday night. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not obviously to be seen and so on, and watch what in real time how players are playing. But it's also about developing relationships with the teams and the coaching teams in particular, our four teams. So yeah, good on him, Steve. I know it's a bit of a honeymoon period now, and it's going to start getting a lot more serious over the next few weeks. But yeah, I've and he's a proper rugby man. He's and I think I wish him all the very best, and I think he's made a positive start just by doing something that Gatland didn't.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, that's him. You won't get any arguments from me on that one. As we are getting close to Wales squad, the Wales squad is due to be announced next week. Anyone from we'll start from within Wales, and then maybe we'll move out a bit. Just a quick chat. We won't go into depth. We'll probably dig down into the Wales squad next week properly. Anyone who you think has really stuck their hand up? I mean, for me first, I stand by Brodie Coughlin. Given that we've got we don't know about Elliot D and Ryan Elias. He continues to be a very good carrier, and his arrows are some of the best of all the Welsh hookers. Mm-hmm. I've been dying by the sword ever since Evan Lloyd first got called up, and I like Evan Lloyd, but for me, Brodie Coughlin is probably the better all-round hooker.
Yeah, purely with my Gwent hat on, I'd go along with that. I think he's been an able deputy at times for Elliot D. As a matter of fact, last season, just before Di Flanagan left and he was playing regularly, I thought he was outstanding actually, and probably deserved a call up, to sort of deputise for Dewi Lake, who's still without a doubt our number one choice in the number 2 jersey. He should be nailed on. So yeah, I'd go along with our Coughlin. The other one who's impressed me over the recent weeks, moving out into the back line has been Tom Bowen.
Yeah, that's who I was going to say as well.
There's no doubt about it. That boy's got a bit of an X factor. The difference at the international level is going to be whether he can defend there, because I don't want to use the Shane Williams sort of thing, but because if you're good enough, you're good enough. But ultimately, the guy's electric, and could offer us that threat. You mentioned over the bridge. the other guy that I've been quietly impressed with has been Carrington at Bristol over the past couple of weeks on the opening
Well,
rounds of the
imagine letting
Prem.
him off your academy books.
Yeah, I think he's been excellent over the last couple of rounds when he's come on. It's probably likely to be too early for him this time around. But if I was Tandy, I'd be thinking about sticking a cap into him early doors before he gets his head turned on residency rules or anything else by our friends over the bridge because I think he's a good player.
This
I
is where
think
the
for
cynic in me thinks we need Wales A. Sorry, Nick.
sorry, yeah, I think for me, probably a couple of players who, well, certainly I think Kieran Williams needs to be considered because he certainly gives you go forward, and I see his game is as all round game has improved. So can he cut it at international level? I don't know. But he's certainly somebody you might want to consider, have a look at, another look at, because he didn't get a proper chance under Gatland. And the other person is Harry Deves. You know, you were talking about Alan Lawrence and how you haven't missed Faletau. We haven't really missed Jack playing for the Ospreys, although obviously Jack's a fantastic player. But Harry Deves, I think I saw a stat, he's top tackler or equal top tackler in the URC after 3 rounds. And he gives you go forward as well, even though he's not big and he's good over the ball. So, yeah, I think from our perspective, those would be two players. From the wider perspective, is there maybe, if he has a good game this weekend, maybe a case to bring Wyn Jones back in as a sort of backup experience loose head? Just depends how he goes this weekend, I guess, against Cardiff.
Yeah, and I think the front row options are up front when you break it down. They definitely are Achilles heel at the moment, aren't they? I think 1 and 3. You know, you're looking at probably Dewi Lake starting at 2. You know, unlucky maybe not to go on the Lions tour, but a fantastic abrasive player. Adam Beard, sorry, likely to come back into the squad. I think he's still eligible, so he may offer us something. But I think we're probably okay in the second row as well. I know we've lost Teddy Williams, but there's an abundance of good second rows at the Ospreys. You know, Ben Carter's a good quality lock at the Dragons, and there's no doubt about it. We are always blessed with decent back row forwards. You know, you're looking at the likes of Wainwright, Moriarty, Faletau, if fit, Deves, Jack Morgan. You know, just McLeod, just to roll a couple of names off the top of my head. So, in actual fact, when you look down the spine of that pack, it's it's okay. It's pretty good actually. But then you look at 1 and 3 and you think, you know, the cornerstone of your scrum. You know, that's where we're going to start coming unstuck. I thought Henry Thomas did okay for the Scarlets actually against the Stormers to start off with. Um, you know, who else do we go to at tight dead prop? I don't know what the
You probably
answer
look
is.
like Archie Griffin, aren't you? He was
You're
like
looking at Archie. You're looking at
third
Archie
choice at
Griffin.
Bath, isn't he? He's very much
Yeah.
third choice.
He has had a bit more game time than he would normally, but is he even third choice because they put a young lad
Yeah,
up
they
in
did.
front
Yeah,
of him
there's
the
a
other
lot. Yeah,
week.
yeah.
Azarati is.
He's not.
This is the problem.
Not for me. Not for
He's
me.
the most experienced, but I think he is undersized. Like you can see, my coach scrummaged against him, Leon Brown, all sorts of stuff because he sort of went through Dragons Academy. I think he's played for the Rags as well at various points. But he said, he scrummaged all this. He said, Azarati, fantastic technical scrummager. He just can't get any power across. He's just, he just hasn't got the size to push. And you do need some element of mass. I do worry about that. Shame we let Littrick go, to be honest. Shame we let Littrick go to Scotland, to be honest, because he might have been.
Yeah, and if you, I think if you were a young kid now, learn it, and obviously you've got to have some sort of genetic capability in terms of size, right?
Yeah.
So, but if you were a kid with that sort of, you look at your mum and dad and you think, oh, if you can learn to play tight head prop, you were going to command a good salary playing professional rugby because at the minute in Wales they are like rocking or shit.
Yeah.
A good tight head is. You can't underestimate how important they are to any team. Having a look at the importance of Furlong to Ireland over the years. Look at the quality of tight head prop in the South African squad.
Hmm.
The French squad, all of these top tier nations, the cornerstone of their scrum is their tight head prop. So, go and learn to scrummage properly if you are a tight head prop and do things properly because you do it, especially in Wales at the minute. The talent ID stuff should be starting earlier, shouldn't it? Because, we need quality tight heads because we just haven't got them.
Yeah, I said it'd be quite interesting because obviously a year or so ago, Scotland introduced their prop school, where they're specifically looking for props. I think just for the men's game they might have expanded the women's as well. Who
I
knows
think
now with
Scotland
Musa
have
for
never been short of women's props, to be fair. It is one of the things
which
they
is the exact
tend
opposite
to
of the men's.
produce. Yeah.
Hmm.
I think for me, the one thing I am like, slightly worried about the props. I think I have no idea what we're going to do in the centres. Obviously, it's unlikely that Eddie James is going to be around. I think he's still going to be out injured, or recovering from injury rather. I think most of the regions are suffering in that area. We've got a couple of 12s knocking about, but
Genuinely think it's going to be Ben Thomas and another.
yeah,
Whether that's
I
the right choice, I don't. Whether that's the right choice, I know we've discussed about this now. I mean, I feel like in international rugby, you need a ball carrier at 12 first, and if they can play now, that's better as opposed to going the other way around. That's where I wish Beetham get a decent run of games at 12 because I think he's probably got the physicality to make that.
But
But I
there's
think
only
we're probably going with Ben Thomas as the incumbent,
yeah,
and then
and
it's
then
like
Joe
who do you put
Roberts
in the
really because
13 to.
who else other than Joe Roberts is a genuine 13?
I mean, Max Page is about. I don't know if he's ready. Um, he's just
I
a
don't
bit
think he is.
No, I
small.
don't.
I don't think he is.
I don't think he is quite. I think he's the odd bench appearance to the Scarlets. Okay, a bit of
He's not
games on the
ready.
wing, but yeah, he's not. For me, he's where Mason Grady was about 4 seasons ago.
We've just got so many injuries in the set. I think that the sad thing is, it's not like the props where we just don't have any talent in that area or don't really have the international level talent. In the centres, we have the talent, but everyone seems to be, you know,
You
in
got
the
Max
A and A
Max
and E.
Llewellyn. Is
Yeah, Max.
Max?
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
yeah,
true.
got these. I mean, isn't
It's
it,
because he's over the bridge. You forget
yeah,
about him.
and the other one isn't that Joe Jenkins who plays for
Yeah,
Bristol? I
he's
know
Joe
been
Jenkins
looking
at
decent
Bristol
as
as well,
well.
yeah. He's been looking good, yeah.
yeah,
And
his dad's from Llandaff, I think.
that's it, yeah. So there is that talent over there. And then I think in the back three, um, again, we're going to be pretty lucky, really, because hopefully Louis Rees-Zammit will be fit. I think he's just out with an impact injury on his toe.
Mm.
So as soon as that calms down, he'll be back in. Maybe it's gout, who knows? Maybe he's been on the cheese and port. And then, you have got the likes of Tom Bowen, you've got the likes of Josh Adams, you have got the likes of those, Blair Murray, all these people
Banned. Isn't Blair Murray banned until he gets his head in?
that he should be number one all over.
Yeah.
No, we've got some. I'm sorry, being facetious there. We definitely
Oh,
got
you're
some
right.
talent to the back three.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
back to I'm probably the least worried about. I think even though like a lot of them didn't cover themselves in glory, the Scarlets back three is still pretty good. I think Cam Winner is almost taking it personally that Blair Murray sort of slipped into his 15 jersey because I thought actually, although Tom Bowen got the man of the match against Connacht, I thought Cam Winnett's aerial game was just absolutely fantastic. His defense is looking better. Like he's nowhere near a Lee. I mean, having Lee Halfpenny near is only going to help.
Yeah.
Like I feel like his tackles are making an impact. Right, they're not always dominant. He's got some good turnovers as well. Again, Jacob Beetham can play there at 15. And then you've got a hell of a boot on with Jacob Beetham. That's a goal kicker as well, which maybe that eases up because actually with Costello as well, he hasn't always had the best kicking percentages. Don't think we've seen enough of Owen Lloyd really.
No.
No,
think
I'd agree with that.
I think the man in possession starts, and that's Dan Edwards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd agree, and I think he's probably the most balanced 10 at the moment. As brilliant form Sheedy's in, I'd say Dan Edwards all round is still probably on balance the better one.
Yeah, and I
Oh,
think. Oh, sorry, Dan.
no, I was going to say just on the fly half thing that Carwyn Leggett Jones had his first taste of senior rugby last weekend,
Oh, great.
or the weekend before for Quins, come off the bench for Quins.
Right.
And they lost to Pontypool, I believe. So it'd be interesting to keep a little eye on that because that young guy is a talent. It's mad to think that was he 17, 18 years of age or something, still in school.
I'm sure they've covered that on the SRC pod.
Yeah, so go and
Uh,
have a listen to that.
Go check that out when it's out later this week.
What I was going
Right.
to say very quickly, sorry, Harley, is like with the likes of Sheedy, it depends on what the kind of strategy is. Are we going short term to try and get the cobwebs off? In which case, yeah, actually Sheedy might be a good option. Or are we thinking long term, and building for the future? In which case, one of the younger guys, I think, Sheedy is like my age. I think maybe a little bit older.
That's still
Ancient.
quite young,
Ancient.
to be fair.
That's ancient in rugby. Ancient.
Not really. You're still south of 30.
Just.
I think as well, you got to look at the personnel
Yeah.
that's picking the squad in terms of the coaching setup. And if you want to look at how Wales are likely to attack and play over the coming years now, you need to go and watch Cardiff because that's the attacking structure that they're going to have.
Mm.
There's no doubt about it. That's the blueprint, and it has worked well for Cardiff. There's no doubt about it. If only they had a bit more of a, if you could stick the Ospreys pack with, for example, with that Cardiff backline and have that attacking shape, it'd be a much more formidable. It'd be a much more formidable unit, I would have thought. In theory, I know Mark Jones has come into the Ospreys and done some good things with their attack there, but yeah, if anyone wants to go and see how Wales are likely to play over the autumn, go and watch Cardiff's last few games because that's going to be the blueprint for you. Albeit there's likely to be more of a kicking strategy involved with it being international rugby as well.
You say that we actually kick almost more than any of the other three teams.
A lot from nine as well, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, so and it's quite varied, but moving on now. So that was all the past with a little bit of future, but moving on to the next weekend ahead. We've got 3 games coming up this weekend as we have our first derby. Now, although that comes up first chronologically, we're going to carry on with the pod tradition of discussing derbies last. So first on our preview, unfortunately, Hattie, is Scarlets kicking off their South Africa tour to the Lions.
Yay.
Your face says it all. If you're an audio listener, just quickly check the pod at about 1 hour 10. And Hattie's faces. I think that's probably a good enough summary.
Do you know what? Like, I think we're like the Lions have won 2 games. We've won 2 games or something recently. From our head-to-heads. I don't know. It could go either way. I mean, the good news is, I think Lousy and Jake Ball are traveling down to South Africa, so that is a slight bonus. I think that's going to bring back a lot of the physicality. That's buzzword for the day. That we've been missing, but we can't rely on 2 players. So, especially when one of them is well into his 30s and hasn't played top flight rugby in a while. So, yeah, I'm not looking forward to it, to be honest. I was really hopeful for the season and it's all gone down the toilet immediately.
Oh, don't worry, you can still change your predictions.
It's just, why does it have to be injuries in the position we have the least depth in?
Because it's making up for last season where you had almost no major injuries, so you were able to keep.
Why couldn't we have like injuries at, I don't know, 10 or in the back 3? I'm not jinxing it. I'm knocking on every bit of wood.
10. You've only got 2 10s and one of them's a centre.
Oh, that's true. In the back 3, I'll take that rather than this.
Yeah. What I would say though is for Scarlets, I think if you look at what Cardiff shown, and even Zebra has shown, Lions' attack isn't particularly good. What they're very good at is scrum. They've got a very good scrum, but once Ivakani comes off, it does drop a bit. They love transition ball almost as much as the Scarlets of old. So if you can limit that, so you almost want to give them the ball. and just kick the ball downfield. Don't kick loose, but if you can get it into the corners, pick Costello and Hawkins and Billy Murray and just give them the license to just boot the leather off of it. It will not be pretty, but I think it'll probably save you in the long run.
Yeah, I can imagine it's going to be a defense optional game from both sides. Just based on like how the how the two teams have played each other in the past. Um, but I just hope that we come away with something because it's been painful.
Absolutely. Right. So if we move on to the next game, because I'm starting to feel the yawns come in. So Ospreys hosting Glasgow down at the Brewery Field. I hear they're making the pitch extra watery, so they're running through the muds, and they're going to experiment with 12 locks in the team.
Hmm.
So Nick, do you want to preview this one?
Yeah, quickly. Yeah, it should be a really good game. Should be a fierce physical battle. Glasgow, as I say, a good team, very good defence, very good driving line-outs. So those are the areas that the Ospreys will need to be preparing for. Yeah, I think it'll be a one-score game. And I don't think it'll be a particularly high-scoring game either. So, but it should be a good game and a proper rugby occasion.
I'd go along with that. I think it's an opportunity at the Brewery Field for the Ospreys to pick up a win, like we've seen. I think with the Dragons, it'll depend on what sort of team Glasgow bring down as well. If Glasgow want to bring some changes to travel down to South Wales, then the Ospreys stand even more of a chance of picking up a win.
Absolutely. So then let's move on to Big Derby. As it's the Dragons' home game, I'm gonna let you go first.
Okay, so it is Derby Day 1, I believe, in Wales.
Yeah.
First one so far, and uh, I wouldn't say it's a must-win game for the Dragons, but it's a must-win game for the Dragons, in my opinion. I think that the fact that we rested so many players going up to Glasgow means that there was obviously an emphasis on this fixture and the Ospreys fixture to come the following week. We've got two home games. We need to get something out of these two fixtures. The fact that the winning streak for Cardiff stems back how many fixtures? When was the last time
Well, it's over a
Dragons?
decade.
It's over a decade, yeah. Means that, all good things come to an end. So I'm hoping that this is this Friday night because I'll be there. With my boy, we'll be down supporting the men of Gwent and hopefully we can come away with a win. I think the recruitment up front means that we can more than take on Cardiff up front this weekend. This Friday night, rather. Unfortunately, like we've already talked about, we've lost Mr. Payet in at 13, so we'll have to do a little bit of rejigging there. But the likes of Tina Stabia and Roger Williams to come back in Nisi's exciting. Hopefully, we have some more positive injury news. There's no reason why we couldn't put a pretty much full international pack out onto the field to take on Cardiff. The big thing for me in this is for the boys to remember that, ultimately this is a derby. All forms should go out the window. So, we need to, this is where sort of be the best on the park with things that take zero skill. Put effort into everything. Be the first one up off the floor, be the first one off the line, be the first one to track back if there's a line break. Do all those things that take zero skill. And I got no doubt that the Dragons stand a good chance of winning this fixture if we can get those nuts and bolts right. Put the effort in. It's a derby. We're playing Cardiff. This is one of the oldest rivalries in rugby. If you want to take it back to Newport v Cardiff, it's even older. And if you want to go into the depths of it, then everyone north of the M4 has always hated playing Cardiff, especially in the Gwent Valleys. So it's about time we harness that old coal miner attitude of the mines of Sengennydd and Six Bells and harness the steel working harshness of the men of Ebervale. And when they turn up at Rodney Parade at 8 o'clock or whatever stupid time it is, I don't care how well we play. I just want to beat 15 people up from Cardiff. absolutely physically stick it to them. So they know that they have been in a derby day. Whether we win or not, we should want to batter anybody in blue and black on Friday night under the lights in what should hopefully be a packed house at Rodney Parade. And if we see a little bit of pride and passion, then I'm okay with that, even if we don't win. And that's my two penny worth on it.
Dan, have you considered becoming like a motivational speaker?
Well, rugby's a simple game sometimes, isn't it, right? If you want it more than the people opposite you, if we make Rodney Parade a real hostile environment, which I know the terrorists will, I listened to the Dragons Lair pod earlier on, they can't wait for it, some of the boys there. And we just got it's old school mentality. Go and get stuck into them. Go and win the physical confrontation first, beat some people up, play rugby afterwards. Simple as that.
And you do have the benefit of you do have several players now who have never lost a Cardiff Dragons fixture.
Yeah, that is true because they've played in blue and black previously. You're quite right. But if we can't do it, you're playing for your livelihoods as well, aren't you? Ultimately, especially if the region still, if the union rather still want to drop down to two regions or two teams. You're playing for it, boys. Let's go out there and take it to them. Because those city slickers are soft. And once we get stuck into them, they'll roll over and have their bellies tickled.
How do you see Cardiff winning the game, Harley?
Oh, just by how we usually do, which is just remembering that we know how to beat them. And it's just I can't imagine it's gonna be pretty because it never is. I hate this. Even the Boxing Day one where we smashed them 49-0 and a half. It still ended up not pretty by the end. I think I'm not going to lie, losing Teddy is huge. I don't think I can emphasize how much losing it because he drives so much of that mentality. He is a proper leader on that field. I'm not sure we'll get the same impact from Nott or Thornton, whichever one starts alongside McNally, because he will start because it will be a day ending in Y. Yeah, I'm less nervous now. Paye is not playing. I'll be honest with that one. I think that back line looks a lot less intimidating without him on there, straightening the line.
Oh yeah, it does. I agree with you. He's a huge loss for us.
Even when I've watched the Nisi at 13 for Tonga and stuff, it's it is having a it is almost having a wing at 13 as opposed to that. I think if we're playing on our form, I think the problem is, so a lot was made of Dragons only having a 6-day turnaround. Dragons Day pod forgot to point out that Cardiff will also have a 6-day turnaround, but our game was a must-win, so we had to play our first team. We just had to. And the question is do you double down and you just say, right, we've got two games. These are both big fixtures for us. If we this game and then Edinburgh at home, and then you go, right, then we give them the autumn off. We just make the use of that break. Because I don't see us making too many changes. I'm not sure where we've got space. We might rotate through hookers and front rows a bit, but yeah, I think as long as if we can get parity up front with the Dragons, which we usually are pretty good at, I think our backline is better than theirs, and I don't think it's too cocky. I think man for man, I think they are all playing better. They are all used to winning. I think getting over the line against Connacht was good for us on a mentality thing. I said you got players like Sheedy and Tom Bowen who are just in brilliant form, and sometimes there's just no legislating for a player who is on it.
I mean, Bowen's 4 tries in 3 matches, 5 tries in 3 matches.
5 matches and 3, 5 in 3. I think he is at the moment.
Yeah, because he's had one each game and a hat trick. So
he had 2. He had 2 last week. I don't know. I can't remember if he scored in the opening game. No, I don't think he scored in the opening game because he became joint top try scorer after scoring 3 last week.
Yeah.
So I think he's 5 in the last 2 games at least.
Yeah.
I don't think he scored in the first game.
But you can't, when somebody's on that kind of form and he's doing it out of nothing as well.
Yeah, and this is why for me the Dragons got to drag it down and make it a proper old school derby. East Wales derby. We've got to really slug it out. If we're going to if we're going to sit off Cardiff in D, let them play lovely shape at the back and let them find Bowen in space and, bring the likes of Beetham or Winnett into the line, it's probably going to be a longer afternoon than I want it to be. If we get off the line and start putting people on their backsides and start smashing people and make Rodney Parade the worst place on earth to be if you're wearing blue and black for 80 minutes on Friday night, then the Dragons 100% stand a chance of winning that fixture. You just gotta make it a dogfight. Don't get dragonsy about it. Make it a dogfight. Simple as that. If we can drag it down, there's, in my opinion, the Dragons can win the fixture. But I think he is right. I think you definitely got the upper hand at 12 and 13. I would say maybe 10, 12, and 13. Tinas will have a good go at Sheedy. He's probably got a point to prove, having been sat on the bench all the last season while Sheedy
Oh,
was
no, he was sat on the bench. That was a thing.
exactly, especially
Yeah.
after what he did. I hope he's got a real chip on his shoulder, because 2 seasons ago he was fantastic when he first came into Cardiff and then was like forgotten about. So
Seb Davis as well, actually, the way he sort of, his career sort of petered out and he basically became fourth choice behind Thornton.
exactly,
Yeah,
so
I can see there are a couple of Cardiff boys with points to prove.
yeah, there's a couple of personal
Big
elements
Mac.
to the fixture as well. Big Mac, yeah, I got no doubt he'll feature somewhere. And I got to be honest, if you were Philo, you'd be stupid not to roll them out, really, wouldn't you? Those lads that have got a chip on their shoulder, go and let the boy from Ely loose for the last 20 minutes and see what he can throw into Cardiff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it, actually, and I hope I hope the Dragons breathe a little bit of fire.
Good.
Corny is everything, but I agree. So let's move on to our predictions. I think I went Nick first last time, so we'll go Dan first today.
Okay, what do you want me to do first? Dragons Cardiff?
Yeah, so we'll do this in chronological order just because it's easier for me. I don't have to think. So we do Dragons Cardiff, Lions Scarlets, then Ospreys Glasgow.
Okay, so Dragons by 3. Tight old school East Wales derby. We've got to break the duck. Dragons by 3. Then, unfortunately, I think Scarlet's next, is it? Sorry.
Yep.
Scarlets, yeah, Scarlets. Scarlets to lose. Lions by 10 out in South Africa. I just think it's that travel in South Africa factor, unfortunately. And I'm going to go Ospreys by 7.
No.
I think the Brewery Field factor, Glasgow may not bring down a fully loaded complement. Yeah, hopefully they go and get the job done.
Patty, on to you.
I'm gonna say Cardiff by 8. I'm gonna say Scarlets by 3. And then I'm gonna say Glasgow by 12.
All away wins. That's a rarity even for the Welsh regions.
I know. And I just can't see Glasgow losing to the Ospreys, to be honest. And I also think that the Cardiff backs are just far superior. I think you're right. If Zipia from the Dragons had been healthy, I think it would have been a slightly different game. But the form that, you've got a 10 who's in form and a winger who's in form, so you're a bit loose there.
Absolutely right. Nick, on to you, your predictions, please.
Dragons by 1, Lions by 12, Ospreys by 3.
So good. And listeners, if you're putting bets on, I won't go into the prediction at the moment, but you should be listening to Nick's predictions. Is all I'll say with that.
He's so right. It's really annoying.
Yeah, I said we'll as I promised, we'll do a roundup after the first block of 5 fixtures. But yeah, it's not a secret. Nick is doing very well. But much like me with I have my usual Scarlets thing. If I end up really bad in the first half of the season and I end up coming back, so watch it, Nick.
Okay. No
And
problem.
as for my self predictions, I've gone for Cardiff by 2. I just think we've got enough to edge it. I still think Dragons are this is gonna be proper edge of the seat stuff. But I think Lions are going to win by 8. I don't think, and I think it is going to be that breakaway try right at the end. It's Scarlet. I can see it being Scarlet's pushing to win, go a little bit too hard, and end up turning it away and losing the losing bonus point with it. And I know it's Ospreys at the Brewery Field and it's their home patch, but I just got a feeling Glasgow by 3. I've just got it's that even with the departures, it's still a very good side.
Yeah, and I think this week as well, weekend just gone, they had so many of their big names come back that they've been missing for the first 2 weeks. So I think we can judge, better off the Dragons game than we maybe can the previous 2 weeks.
Yeah, and because they're probably going to lose a lot of those big Scotland names again.
Yeah,
in a couple of weeks, much like us. So I imagine they might give them a couple of games.
Yeah,
just as their pre-season. Anyway, I think that's everything, unless anyone has any other business they want to discuss.
No.
Just next to my predictions, because of the nature of Welsh rugby, I will be Welsh positive as much as I possibly can in every prediction.
Excellent. I said, and if people are asking about the news that came out with the potential card thing, that's so close to hearsay. The boys on the Central will probably cover that Tuesday night when they record, but until we've got anything concrete, we're not going to bother with that. So all that's left for me to say is thank you very much for listening. Thank you, Hattie. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
It's been a pleasure as always. And enjoy your rugby. Ta-ra.
Ta-ra.
That was RAP, the Welsh Regional Rugby Appreciation Podcast. Please rate, review and share us on socials if you can, and join us again next week for more of the same. And until then, enjoy your rugby.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Mint is still $15 a month for premium wireless. And if you haven't made the switch yet, here are 15 reasons why you should. 1, it's $15 a month. 2, seriously, it's $15 a month. 3, no big contrast. 4, I use it. 5, my mom uses it. Are you playing me off? That's what's happening, right? Okay, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan. $15 per month equivalent required. New customer offer first 3 months only. Then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.